especially in America, we're just way over-indexed on positivity. I think that we've been sold a bill of goods. We've been told that the way to lead a good life, be effective, etc., is to be positive all the time and never be negative, to always look forward, never look back. And that's just bad advice. It's unscientific. What we should be doing with our regrets then is not ignoring our regrets.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, editor-in-chief of Leader's Edge. In this episode, I talk with best-selling author Dan Pink on site at the Council's Operations Leadership Forum, which took place in late 2025. It's the second time I've had the pleasure of interviewing Dan, and just like last time, it is an entertaining and insightful conversation. We start in on the topsy-turvy state of the world and the question he believes we should be asking ourselves.
So, I think the question we should be asking ourselves isn't what's next. Understandably, everything's so freaking weird. We want to understand what's going to happen next. What's the next shoe to drop? Is AI going to take our jobs? Is it going to liberate us forever? Is the American political situation going to revive itself? Is it going to get even worse than it is right now, et cetera, et cetera? And I think it's right now, it's just, everything is so, the kind of change that we're dealing with now is so massive that I don't think we can answer that question. And I think the better question is, what can I do now? And this, I don't want to get too theoretical, but there is this idea, sort of the training that a lot of us have is that we analyze first and then act, that we figure stuff out and then decide what to do. And that's okay, but I think now, the only way to figure out what the hell's going on is to try stuff and do stuff. And I think in that stumbling way, in the dark, when we start, just start doing things, we might be able to figure out what's going on. But just sitting there and analyzing, okay, let me just think through what's going to happen next is a fool's errand. I'm really convinced of that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Paralysis by analysis.
There's something like that. But even worse than that is that I don't know if we have the capability to analyze intelligently what's happening right now.
Yeah.
I think it's just too weird.
And no precedent.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right. You talk about when trying to solve problems.
Yes.
The default approach that people have. So talk to us about what that is and how it can be a problem.
When we try to solve problems, we always want to add stuff, do more. And in many cases, the answer is to take stuff away or to do less. And it's very, very hard because we have this, when we're in the Dog and Pony show just now, we talked about this idea of like a kind of a default setting, like on a computer. And our default setting, and I think it's a very deeply embedded default setting among like smart, accomplished people, is to do more. We're going to add something. And we really have to overcome that. We don't have to necessarily abandon that all the time, but we have to be much more ambidextrous about how we solve the problem. We have to recognize that, sometimes you want to add, but you also have to think about what we want to take away. And one of the reasons for the feeling of overwhelm right now, in my view, is that we're always adding and never subtracting. And this is one reason why you see a little bit of sort of steps in this direction with things like on this phone here that we're talking about. No, seriously, on this phone here, you can put limits on how much you use social media, for instance. Like that's a little bit of a subtraction. You can stop your notifications. Just those are, I think to me, those are small steps in a world where we're feeling overwhelmed. It's like just the solution to feeling better and doing better is not to add more stuff. It really isn't. But we got to overcome this default setting that it is.
Tell us about the don't do this list.
Well, this is an idea that's been around for a while. Sometimes it's called a stop doing list. It's a don't list. It's something that I've done myself for a few years now, which is you basically you think hard about what are some things, and I like to make it 3 just because I think 3 is always a good number. I am. It really is. Well, it's like, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a trend, and 3 things that waste your time, distract you, divert your focus, and like think hard about those kinds of things, but also memorialize them, write them down. I think there's a power there's very clear there's a power to writing things down, and keep a list of things that you shouldn't do, and like post it, like in the way that you keep your to-do list in view. And so I've done that, and it's been really helpful to me to stop. It's been really helpful to me to do those kinds of things. And it begins ever so slowly to begin to think a little bit more subtractively.
Give us one of the things that
on mine. One of the most important ones on mine is don't answer email first thing in the morning. I mean, as silly as that sounds, it's really transformative, because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because you get it there, it's there waiting for you. You know you can do it, and you get that kind of quick hit of satisfaction, like boom, 1 down, 2 down, 3 down, 4 down, got rid of him, 5 down, 6 down. But it's very, I mean, when I say, I don't even say very rarely the most important thing I have to do that day. It's never the most important thing I have to do that day. And so you end up taking it, and so I'm much better off saying, what's the hardest, most difficult, most important, what's the most challenging or most important thing I have to do that day, and take an hour to do that first. And that's been really helpful to me. But it's harder to enforce if it's like this kind of theoretical thing that you know you should do, rather than something that is like, this admonition staring you in the face at your desk like that. Doing small things actually matters a lot. And a lot of times we try too hard to come up with big, comprehensive meta solutions, which are sometimes valuable, but in this case, just doing some small things, getting a little momentum, trying some stuff, making some progress is really important.
Next, we talk about ways to keep yourself motivated and how to give feedback.
Well, I mean, all kinds of ways to stay motivated. I think day to day, one of the most important things is to just pay attention to the progress you're making. We know, again, we have pretty good evidence that making progress is, on a day-to-day basis, the single most motivating thing that we do. We like to make progress. It feels good to make progress. It feels good to make progress on meaningful things. And but we sometimes don't always see it. And so once again, it's a matter of coming up with a routine, a ritual that allows us to notice it and memorialize it. In this case, you're memorializing it not to look at again, but just simply to the act of doing it. So, if you go out today, it's an exercise in noticing as well. So if you were to go out today, if I were to say to you, here's your assignment for tomorrow, say, I want you to notice people doing kind things for each other. You will notice that in a way that you wouldn't have before. So if I say to you, start noticing the progress you're making, because you're going to have to record it at the end. You start noticing more of the progress that you're making, and it's one of those things that's the bang for the buck is really, really powerful on that one, because it's like it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
So if we think about if it's timely, individualized, non-punitive, and then also forward-looking. I think what that distills to is the best feedback is actionable. And a lot of times we over-index on positive or negative, and we obsess, I want to be honest, but I don't want to be cruel, or maybe I can sandwich the good stuff and the bad stuff into the good stuff. And what I think that's a diversion. What we want to do is like, can I give you feedback that is actionable? Can I give the feedback that's actionable? And that captures everything. And that actionable feedback is forward-looking. It is individualized. It is non-punitive. It just helps people get better.
We move into the topic of regret, which Dan has studied extensively, starting with how regret is useful.
Regret is useful if we treat it right. So it is inherently part of being human, because everybody has regrets. Everybody has moments where they look back and they wish they had done things differently and hadn't done certain things. And it makes them feel bad. And that's actually really important, that it makes you feel bad. It's one of the most common emotions that human beings have. And so, but if you think about it, we have this very common emotion that makes us feel bad, and that sort of feels like, wait a second, what's wrong with us? Or why are we so messed up? And we're actually not messed up at all, because it's adaptive. Like it's stuck around evolutionarily for a reason. And I think the problem is, especially in America, contemporary America, we're just way over-indexed on positivity. I mean it. Honestly, I think that we've been sold a bill of goods. We've been told that the way to lead a good life, be effective, et cetera, is to be positive all the time and never be negative, to always look forward, never look back. And that's just bad advice. It's unscientific. And what we should be doing with our regrets then is not ignoring our regrets. And so this hyperpositivity says, forget about it. Look forward all the time. Never look back. Always be positive. And that's bad advice. And so some people just ignore their regrets. And other people get captured by them. They wallow in them. And what we want to do is we want to think about them. We want to look at them as signal, as information, as data. And when we do that, to actually answer your question, Sandy, we have all kinds of evidence that it helps us become better negotiators. It can help us become better problem solvers. It can help. I talked a little bit about some cognitive biases today. It can help us avoid cognitive biases. It can help us find more meaning in life. It just has it's a teacher, but it's a teacher only if we treat it right. We don't run away. We don't run away. We don't run away from it. We don't run away from it. Say, oh, I don't hear. It's like a knock at the door, right? So somebody comes and knocks at that door right there. What can I do? I can say, I don't hear anything. That's a no regrets. Or I can say, oh my God, a knock at the door. This has got to be the worst thing ever. And I go hide underneath that table. Or I can say, hey, sup? What do you need? Right? And just look it in the eye and say, what are you telling me? Yeah. Oh, that's what you're telling me. And when we do that, when we treat it in this very when we think about our regrets, when we just stare them in the eye, it's a transformative emotion. But we haven't been taught how to do that very well.
Then Dan tells us about a major demographic difference he found among people he surveyed about regret.
So I did this big quantitative study, as you know, where we surveyed about 4,500 Americans on various dimensions of regret. What do they regret? And the reason that the sample was so big was to look for demographic differences in regret. And there weren't very many. I'm still surprised by that, how modest these demographic differences were on race, on religious belief. And but the one difference was on age, and it was massive. So you can have two kinds of regrets, or sort of in the broad categorization of regret. You can have regrets of action. I regret something I did. I bullied somebody. I regret it. I cheated on my spouse. I regret it. Or regrets of inaction. I didn't ask somebody out on a date. I didn't tell my grandfather that I loved him, and then he passed away. And what sticks with us over time are these inaction regrets. So that young people, 20 people in their 20s, had about equal numbers of regrets of action and inaction. But the older people got, the more they had more inaction regrets and action regrets. And it was just endless. It's so the time people get to their 60s, 70s, and 80s, it's 3-to-1, 4-to-1. It's so clear to me that over time, what people regret is what they didn't do. Because when we have regrets of action, we sometimes will make sense of them. We can find a silver lining. I shouldn't have married that guy, but at least I have these 2 great kids. Create some sort of sense, some sense making there. We had a lot of regrets in the database of bullying, and so you have people who I bullied somebody 25 years ago, but I found them on Facebook and I called them up and apologized to them. Okay, so you can make amends. But with the inaction regrets, they stick with you. Yeah. And so if you look at, I just remember on that chart, if you look at, I think the oldest people we had on the survey were in their early 80s. But if you look at the people in the early 80s, it was 4-to-1 inaction regrets over action regrets.
You know, it's interesting because with the inaction, your mind can go anywhere and trying to, oh, I didn't do this, so it could have been this or this or this.
That's part of it.
Because you didn't do it.
That's part of it. So that's part of it. I think that's a very astute point. The part of it is the unknown. But part of it, particularly for things like boldness, is that people look back on themselves and they're not necessarily conjuring, oh my God, everything would have been great if I had asked that person out on a date or if I had gone on the trip. But they look back and say, what? Why didn't you just step up and do it? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know? I think that's it. We look back on our former selves and say, what? What were you so scared of?
Next, my colleague and podcast producer Zach Ewell weighs in with a few questions inspired by conversations with his mom, who has had a 30-year career in sales and has utilized some of Dan's selling strategies. Zach, tell us about the setup for this next question.
Thanks, Sandy. My mom pivoted to a career in sales 31 years ago, right after I was born. One of her favorite books to read at the time was Pink's own To Sell as Human. She told me that, with help from Pink's book, she was able to assist coworkers who came from different backgrounds transition into sales roles by linking past experiences, emotions, and skills to help them upskill at their job. Her question was this: could this apply to all people at work, no matter their role? And if so, why did he choose directly to write about salespeople?
It is applicable to all people, but the reason I chose sales is that all people are salespeople. That's one of the ideas in the book, is that when you look at, and we did a piece of research on, not as good as the stuff from The Regret, but we did a piece of research back 10 years ago, 12 years ago on asking people what they do all day and trying to recategorize what they do all day. And we found that people are spending enormous amounts of their time basically persuading, influencing, convincing, cajoling. And they don't have to be in sales. They could be like a teacher. A teacher is persuading people. Managers are persuading people. Doctors and nurses are trying to get people to change their behavior and so forth. They're trying to get people to give up certain resources and change, and getting people to redirect their behavior in the way that salespeople are. So I do think that that's one reason the book is called To Sell is Human, is that it's part of what human beings do. It's part of what human beings have always done. It's just that it's become monumentally more important. Now, I wanted to write a book about sales. I think this might be what she's asking. I wanted to write a book about sales per se because I felt like it was getting a bad rap, big time. What would happen is I was writing about other kinds of business stuff. A couple decades ago, back when there were things called magazines. I don't know. You might
We
remember.
have one of those.
Yeah, you might remember them. I did a fair amount of long form magazine journalism on business, and some of the smartest people I met were salespeople, and yet among my smarty pants friend circle, they look down on that, and it's like, wait a second, I don't understand this. Like, why do some people look down on sales? And yet my experience dealing with these people is that some of these people are like the most astute, they're really astute, and they're really effective, and they're nothing like the stereotype. Like, what is going on there? And so that's why I wanted to do that, because I had an inkling that all of us are selling a lot, and that sales had changed, and so that's why I wanted to do it. So I wanted to understand what people actually do all day, which is selling. But I didn't want to hide entirely behind words like influence or like that. I wanted actually to put a fine point up and say, hey, listen, guys, we're all selling all the time, whether we like it or not. And selling is not this kind of dirty, horrible thing, especially now, because salespeople could take the low road, and we have experience as buyers when salespeople took the low road, when there was information asymmetry. But now there's less and less information asymmetry, and it makes it very different.
Next, I asked Pink about a salesperson's place in the world. With consumers having so much access to information than ever before due to AI tools, I asked the author if he believes salespeople are still the curators and clarifiers of information for consumers.
Yeah. I think it has a bigger effect on more direct customer service, because in customer service there are a lot of, a lot of questions that are repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. And it's probably going to have a bigger role on the lower end of sort of lower ticket sales items. But for higher ticket sales items, I think it becomes another accompaniment, and that in the same way that a salesperson or even a doctor would have to deal with someone coming to them with a stack of Google printouts. Now they're going to come with saying, well, ChatGPT told me this, and Perplexity told me this, and Claude told me this, and they're going to have to say, okay, here's where they got it right, here's where they got it wrong. A lot of times what you'll see if people are using these large language models for these kinds of inquiries is they sometimes ask the wrong question, and the salespeople know how to ask the right question. I don't think it replaces that contextual curatorial function. I think it forces them to up their game, though.
Finally, we get around to a fun question for Dan. We ask him to tell us about 3 things on his desk, and here's what we learn.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, 3 things that are on my desk. So not much significance of the big rubber ball band, except that I use rubber bands and I need a place to hold them, and it also gives me something to like bounce around. So we'll count that. It was large, yeah. I don't know I don't know where I got that. I think actually somebody gave that to me. Again, just to share more about the seedy details of my personal life, I really like rubber bands. I really like Ziploc bags. I think that those are so powerful. I think those are such ingenious tools. Like, forget about large language models. Rubber bands and Ziploc bags are awesome. All right, those are like two incredible inventions. So I do have a big rubber band ball there. What else is on there? I have this thing that one of my daughters made in preschool, where they took I don't have my computer. See, if I intentionally didn't bring it down my back because I didn't think I needed it, and I would show you my Ziploc bags because you would see, I would be total proof of concept. I would open it up and say, "Oh my God, do you have like 5, 6 Ziploc bags?" I'm not joking. You would totally see that. So the photograph, I don't have the slide on me, but there's a. So like those clips that you use to. If I wanted to fasten like a big thing of paper, okay?
Yeah.
So imagine the black part of that,
Yeah.
all right? So that's the base. And in nursery school, they made this thing where they took a photograph. One of my daughter's name is Eliza. A photograph of Eliza, she must be 3, 4, from the front. And then a photograph of her from the back. And then they laminated it and stuck it in one of those things. And so it's like a little thing, it's like a little figurine of her, but from the front and the back.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I've had it ever since she was in, so I have that on my desk too. And then the other thing I have on my desk is, I got a lot of crap on my desk. Another thing I have on my desk is I have a stuffed, you might have seen this in the photograph because it sits up here,
I think I did.
a stuffed doll. Okay, it's a
I saw that.
Okay, a stuffed doll, and that is, you know who that is?
It looked almost like a gnome, or not, but it didn't have a hat.
Yeah.
Did not have a hat.
Yeah.
It was gnome-like
Gnome-like.
because it had gray hair and
Yeah.
a beard. It is a stuffed doll of Charles Darwin.
Oh.
Yeah,
Funny.
who is one of my heroes because he, for a whole set of reasons, in that he went against conventional wisdom. He was someone who wasn't a scholar, who made a big contribution to the world of ideas. And I designed my office in Washington behind my house in part based on his office, because he had an office, and I saw there was an exhibit in London maybe 20 years ago of his office, and he had this office where he looked out on his yard, essentially. And so I got a garage office, and I was like, oh, you know what I want to do? Let's knock this out and have a window, and I can have like a Darwin-like office. And so I have this, and I celebrate Darwin Day, and so my family gave me a Charles Darwin doll that is sitting up there. Another thing that I have, there's a very generative question here, is I have, and it might have been in the picture, because it would be sort of in that direction, is a sign that says, it might have been there. It says, "Beat the resistance."
Beat the resistance?
Beat the resistance, and there's a signature there. And so there's a great book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and it's a book about creativity. And it's a book that I picked up not inadvertently, but I picked up in the San Francisco airport a long time ago because it had like a shiny cover. No joke, it had like a metallic cover. I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? Oh, this looks kind of interesting, and it's short. Okay. And it's a book about how people are creative and how people do good work. And what he says is that every time that you sit down to do creative work, the whole universe conspires against you to make you stop, for you to distract you, to make you procrastinate. And he calls that the resistance. And he's like, the job of being an artist is to beat the resistance. And so I saw him once, and somehow he had that card and he signed it for me. And so on there, it's like, beat the resistance. So, great question. I mean, so I have, and there's other kinds of stuff out there too.
Go on forever.
Oh my God, it's like, we could do like a whole,
Ask you 5.
we could do a whole video series here where I walk you through of the different.
Oh, yeah.
I have another thing. Okay, here we go. I'll show you another thing.
That was Dan Pink talking with us on site at the Council's Operations Leadership Forum. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. For more Leaders Edge podcasts, visit leadersedge.com or subscribe.